The whale seems to be just a giant, big, beautiful, and somewhere out there in the ocean. But the whale is not a decoration. It is a nutrient pump. This is transport between latitudes. It is a supplier of food for the depths, and sometimes it switches entire food chains. Take away the whales, and the ocean doesn't change loudly, but systematically all over the network. I'll spread it out now. 10 functions and one effect that is most often overlooked. Whales are scale engineering. They eat a lot, they travel far, they dive deep, and they leave behind a trace in the most literal sense. And most importantly, their role is not just who they ate and what do they move. Nutrients, carbon, energy, life. Go. 10 functions of whales in nature with detailed analysis. 1. Whale pump. Return nutrients to the surface. Many whales feed deeper and defecate closer to the surface, and this raises nitrogen and other elements into the illuminated layer where phytoplankton live. Easier. A whale is a biological elevator. 2. Ocean fertilization and primary production support. Whale plume is not just waste. It is a nutrient mixture that can support the growth of phytoplankton. There are laboratory and field studies showing the stimulating effect of whale feces on phytoplankton. Important, the ocean is huge and the contribution varies by region, but the mechanism is real. 3. Whale conveyor belt. Transfer elements between latitudes. Baleen whales often feed in productive high latitudes and then migrate and spend time in warmer regions. This is how they transport nutrients and energy geographically. The ocean is not a single pan, and such hyphenations matter. 4. Regulation of production numbers. Baleen whales are large consumers of krill and small fish. Toothed are predators of fish and squid. This creates pressure on prey populations and affects the distribution of energy in food webs. In general reviews of the ecosystem functions of whales, this is highlighted as a key role of megafauna. 5. Trophic cascades. Indirect influence through someone. Sometimes whales change the system not by direct eating, but by changing the behavior and numbers of intermediate links. The predator affects the prey affects its victims, and so on. It's not always and everywhere, but as a principle of ecology, it is one of the most powerful mechanisms of influence of large predators and consumers. 6. Whale fall. They feed the deep sea when they die. When a whale carcass sinks, it becomes a huge energy package for the depths. First come the big scavengers. Then there are entire communities, including the stages where hydrogen sulfide, chemosynthetic processes work. That is, the whale feeds the ocean even after life. 7. Support for the unique biodiversity of the depths. Dozens of specialized species are found on the whale falls. Some of them are closely related to such food islands on the bottom, and this is a serious topic in deep sea ecology. Ketopad is like an oasis, only at the bottom. 8. Carbon export to the depths. Whales accumulate carbon in their bodies. When a whale dies and sinks, some of this carbon is transferred to the deep sea. There are scientific estimates of the impact of whale hunting on the oceanic carbon cycle and carbon exports through whale falls. Important, this is not a magic climate rescue button, but this is a real biogeochemical process. 9. Hotspots for other animals. Concentration of food chains, where whales feed, birds, fish, and other mammals often become active. Because whale feeding is associated with dense concentrations of prey and the redistribution of nutrients. This is not a fairy tale. This is a common ecology where there is energy, there is life. 10. Ocean status indicators. Whales live a long time, migrate a lot, and depend on food chains. Therefore, their condition and distribution often reflect changes in the ocean. Food, temperature, noise, collisions, ecosystem health. This logic is also discussed in the materials of the International Whaling Commission, IWC, on the relationship between whales, ecosystems, and climate. One unexpected effect that is often overlooked. Most people think so. The whale is important because it's big and eats a lot. But the key effect is different. A whale is a connection between the layers of the ocean. It takes resources from the depths, lifts them up to the light, and thereby feeds the basis of the entire system. Phytoplankton. Phytoplankton is the starting point of food chains, and it's also part of the ocean's carbon cycle. That is, the whale does not only affect fish and krill, it's about how alive the upper layer of the ocean will be. 10 unusual facts about whales, with detailed analysis. 1. Whales are not fish, they are mammals. They breathe the air. They feed the cubs with milk. 2. There are two big strategies, mustachioed and toothed. Baleen filter their food, krill, small fish. Toothed ones hunt and use their teeth. 3. Whale pump is a scientific term, not a meme. It is described in the scientific literature. Marine mammals concentrate nitrogen near the surface through fecal plumes. 4. Whale feces can stimulate phytoplankton growth. This has been tested experimentally, for example, on materials related to baleen whales. 5. Cetaceans go through stages and live a long time. A carcass is not eaten and forgotten. Communities change, scavengers to enriched benthic species to sulfophilic stage and beyond. 6. Whale falls are associated with chemosynthetic systems. In the later stages, communities arise that are similar in principle to those found in springs and sips. Nutrition through chemistry, not light. 7. The carbon effect of whales is being discussed seriously, but without magic, there are scientific papers assessing the contribution of whale population restoration to the carbon cycle and exports to the depths and highlighting limitations and uncertainties. 8. International organizations record the ecosystem roles of whales. IWC discusses the ways whales affect carbon and nutrients, including differences in the processing of nutrients, depending on the depth of feeding. 9. The whale as an ecosystem is not a metaphor. While he is alive, he moves substances. When he died, he created an island of biodiversity at the bottom. 10. The most underrated role is logistics. Whales are not just consumers. They transport elements between depth and surface and between latitudes. Conclusion: whales are not giants for beauty. It is a nutrient pump. It is a transport between the regions of the ocean. These are the regulators of the power supply circuits. They are suppliers of food for the depths through whale falls, and participants in the carbon cycle of the ocean. Remove the whales and the ocean will become quieter and poorer in connections. If it was useful, subscribe. Here we analyze the animals so that it becomes clear who really keeps nature in working order. And write in the comments, what was more surprising, that whales fertilize the upper layer of the ocean, or that after death they create entire deep sea oases?